Recording's in progress. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about today. Habits you developed during COVID, during the pandemic, that you need to break. Now, let's be honest. Is there at least one habit you developed during COVID that you need to break? Probably. Okay. Some aren't really that bad of habits. It is what it is. Some are habits that are good habits you developed during COVID. You know, the participation on here. Some of you have made more contacts. Some of you have read more books. Some of you have done a variety of other things. Some of you have taken COVID and because you weren't going out as much, have gotten in really great shape. Some of you, maybe the opposite. Okay. But there are habits that were developed as salespeople and as people in general during COVID, some of which, as we are now past this COVID world, I understand that it's, you know, we're still kind of, you know, things are still happening and stuff like that. I read things here now that there's this person has it, this person has it. But I think as a whole, we're kind of past this COVID world. We need to take a look at some of these habits that we developed during COVID and try to get rid of some of them. Some of which are even more important in our business because we're entering into a market that might not be the same type of market as COVID was. So some of those habits might actually put us down in a really bad spot. So I have a list here of habits that we developed during COVID. Not everyone. This is not a to everyone. This is a universal note here. Some of you may not have this habit. Some of you may have different habits. But I wrote down here a list of common habits that people developed during COVID that we need to break. They're not written in any particular order of importance. This is just how they're written. I wrote down here, number one, not working on your skills intensely. Not working on your skills intensely. So Mike had said something to us at the management retreat last week. He said for many agents during COVID, their income went up even though their skills went down. For many agents, their income went up even though their skills went down. So here's what I mean by not working on your skills intensely. I just mentioned this. It's so funny. I told Jason, I just mentioned this, but this was what I wrote down. Here, watch it. You can even see, just so you know I'm not lying. That's the first thing I wrote down. Not working on the listing presentation like we used to. During the beginning part of COVID, and even up to COVID, I used to get so many listing presentation role plays sent to me. Neil used to get a ton of them. Okay. We used to have them here on Zoom. We used to do a ton of these types of things. And I got to tell you, over the last year and a half, not many. I get Jason's and Josie's and I get Melinda's and stuff like that, Jack's, but I don't get a lot of other people's. Now, some of you might be doing it and you're just not sending it in. But I've reached out to Neil and I talked about this as well. And Neil said, I don't really get many either. So we have to get back to that habit of working on the listing presentation on a regular basis. Okay, recording it, send it to your coach or send it. Even if I don't coach you, send it to me. Okay, because I take Friday afternoons to watch those and I'll give you some feedback. So, you know, make sure you send those to me, but make sure you're practicing the listing presentation. We're not recording our prospecting calls like we used to. Just like we used to get role play listing presentations, we used to get prospecting recordings all the time. I'm not getting very many. Neil's not getting very many. I can't imagine Patty's getting very many. Record your prospecting calls. Thursday at 3:30, Jesse is going to go over the phone system that we have for the company. It's called 3CX. Some of you use it, some of you don't. But we now have the ability on there to easily record calls and text message through 3CX. So he's going to go over that at 3:30 on Thursday. But whatever you're using, start recording your prospecting calls. Here's the thing. We don't need to hear the other side of the conversation. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if we're allowed to. Okay. So you have to be careful about that. But record your side of the conversation and send it in, right? So we can work on our skills. I wrote down here next, we're not working on the upswings, downswings, tone of our conversations. Now, here's what I mean by that. Anyone have this habit during COVID to a buyer? Well, just write up an offer for $50,000 above list price. You're not watching the tone. You're not watching the upswings, the downswings. Well, how much do you want for your property? Oh, sure. Yeah, we can take that. Oh, okay. You have to work on how to have a proper conversation, upswings, downswings, the tone of your conversations. See, during COVID, we got away from that. It was sellers, how much do you want? Sure. Buyers, just write up an offer, right? That's all we were doing. As the market changes and we need to work, we need to be more skilled, we need to go back to looking at the upswings, downswings, tones, right? Different things like that. I wrote down here, we haven't forget just the listing presentation, all presentation skills. Is showing offers to a seller a presentation? Is getting a buyer to submit an offer a presentation? Is a price reduction conversation a presentation? We're presenting all day, but during COVID, we haven't had to have price reduction presentations. We didn't really present offers to a seller as much as we got 50 offers. This one's the highest. You want it? We didn't really go through the different offers as much as we should. Buyers, we didn't go through the presentation of it. We just told them, you got to write up high, submit higher, waive everything. So we didn't get, our presentation skills haven't been intact during COVID because we were just write it up, send it out. So we're not working on the presentation skills. As things change a little bit and buyers might want to wait a little bit, they might need a little more information before they write up that offer. Seller might need a little bit more information about these offers that are coming in because maybe instead of 15 offers, they only have 3 or 4. Now I need to really detail what these offers are. So we need to get back in the habit of working on the skills intensely. Okay, such as working on the listing presentation, recording the prospecting, upswings, downswings, tones of our conversations, personality styles, working on the presentations. It was amazing when Mike asked last week, he was talking about personality styles. There were brokers, managers, owners that didn't know what personality style they were. We got it because they're not coaching, they're not teaching on that. So we got to get back to working on the skills intensely. Second thing I wrote down here, habit we need to break, we weren't pricing property correctly. Let's be honest. How many of you went on a listing presentation the last 2.5 years, not really caring what the price they were going to want? Come on, let's be honest. You were looking at that pricing going, how many of you tried to price a property and said, is it really that much? Am I really going to tell them $975? See, we weren't pricing property correctly. For 2 years, pricing property meant, how much do you want? Okay. That was our pricing strategy. And yet now I'm getting a lot of calls of, hey, can you look at these comps? Hey, I'm having a hard time pricing this. Can you take a look at that? I'm getting more of these calls now than I have been in a long time. Neil, same thing. Mentors, same thing. We're looking at pricing property. Even though the market is still a seller's market, you need to get back to pricing property correctly. And there's a second part to that. Be able to articulate your reasoning. Even though the market is still a seller's market, you need to get back to pricing property correctly and be able to articulate your reasoning. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I suggest 850. Oh, 850. Gosh, for the last couple of years, I was thinking we could probably get 900. Well, let me tell you why 850. Be able to articulate the reasoning. Because if you're not pricing property correctly and you give them 850, you're not going to be able to articulate the reasoning. Other than, we're going to price it low and see what happens. Get back to the pricing property skills. Get back to looking at the CMA. Do a couple test CMAs just to get back in the idea of pricing property. Okay. When you preview property, when you go preview a property, do a little quick little CMA on that property to see would I have priced it the same way? How did they come up with that pricing? We need to get back into the pricing property correctly, because here's the thing. If the market softens, you will be in a lot of trouble if you incorrectly price your listings. Why? What will happen? What will happen to your listings if you can't price them correctly in a softening market?
They'll sit there.
They'll sit. They'll sit. Now, how fast right now does a seller expect you to get their home sold?
Couple days.
Couple days, right? Snap of the fingers. All right, couple days. So now you don't price it correctly, market softens, and instead of a couple days, it's a couple weeks. Is that seller on your side at that point?
Nope.
Nope. Even though a couple weeks isn't that big of a deal, they want it sold immediately. And so we got away with not pricing it correctly and still getting it sold immediately. If things change, it's not going to happen that way. So we need to get back to pricing property correctly. Okay, so make sure you work on that. Also, let me ask you a question. Does anybody here enjoy having price reduction conversations? No, nobody like looks forward to that. You know what I'm really looking forward to today, Robert? I gotta have a price reduction conversation. I can't wait to have that call with my seller. No, nobody enjoys that. Well, if the market softens and you don't price your properties correctly, are you going to have price reduction conversations? You should avoid those conversations like the plague. Okay. Anything to get out of a price reduction conversation. But you might need to have it if you don't get back to price and property correctly. So again, what I would challenge you to do is when a listing comes on in your marketplace, do your own little CMA, 5-6 minutes, look at some of the comps in the area and see if you understand where they got that pricing from. And would you have priced it differently? So you kind of know what's going on. If you need help with that, I'm more than happy to do that. All right, third thing I wrote down here, habit we developed during COVID that we need to break. We got away from verbal conversations. We got away from verbal conversations during COVID. So I have this on coaching calls all the time. Some of you don't like what I'm going to say next. That's okay. Social media post is not a contact. Email is not a contact. Texting with no back and forth conversation is not a contact. Meaning that I say, well, how many contacts did you do today? Well, you know, I sent out 10 social media posts to people. That's not a contact. You just did some marketing. Well, I texted everybody in my database. Did anybody respond? No. Then you have no contacts for the day. Okay. Now, social media is fine. Texting is fine. Emails are fine, but those do not replace your contacts. Contacts are verbal conversations about real estate, or if you text somebody and then they respond back with a real estate conversation and you respond back, and then there's like a 3 and 4th back and forth real estate conversation via text message, you can count it. But just sending out a text message of what's going on in the marketplace and all you get back is thanks, that's not a contact. We went away from the verbal conversations. What don't you get? What don't you get from people if it's not a verbal conversation? What can't you pick up? Reality. You can't pick up reality, which is what? When you're not talking to them, what can't you get from them? Like what reactions can't you get?
The emotional reaction.
Can't get the emotional reaction. Can you figure out the tone in a text message?
Not without some emojis.
Not without some emojis, all caps, you know, something like that. Can you figure out their facial expression on an email? And let me tell you something, going back to the emojis, depending on who you're texting, they might not know what they're doing. Okay. they might have verbally said something. That's happened to me before, where I'll verbally say something and then they'll replace the word with the emoji. And I'm like, I'm not an emoji guy. So if you ever get an emoji from me, it was an accident. Okay. But it might happen. But you can't get the tone. You can't get the facial expression. Here's what else you can't get. You can't get the long pauses. There's a difference when you can hear someone tell me, so what are your thoughts on the marketplace? And then you're just waiting for their text and they say, I'm good. And you just assume they're good. But what if the verbal conversation was, well, I don't know. That's a whole different conversation. You don't get the long pauses. You don't get the tone. You don't get the facial expression. Let me ask you this. Do they ask more questions verbally or through text and email? Verbally. I can't get everything out of them via text. I can't get everything out of them via email. I can't get everything out of them via social media posts. But yet during COVID, we've kind of gotten away from the verbal conversations as much. We still do some, but as much. I made this comment the other day, a couple of weeks ago, and I give you all so much credit because you really stepped your game up. I made this comment at one of the 9 o'clock sessions when people would put their goals in there, and I said, I'm sorry to rain on everybody's parade, but some of you need to make more contacts. And since then, we've added more to the contact list, which is great. I give you all a lot of credit for that. But we've got to get back to just the verbal stuff. The social media post is not a contact. Email is not a contact. Text is not a contact. Plus, can people take text message differently than how you want it to be said?
Absolutely.
I wanted to play a video. I can't play it because there's a few too many curse words in it, which, as you know, doesn't bother me, but I try to do my best to accommodate everybody. But if you really want to have a laugh, YouTube, Key and Peele text messaging. And it's like a 3-minute skit of these two guys, and they're just totally, they're saying the same thing via text message, but one person is taking it completely different than the other person is. And it just turns into this big ordeal. So if you have some time and you're okay with the couple F-bombs, like by a dozen, watch that's why I couldn't play it. I wanted to play it, and then I found like a censored version of it, but it was like all I was like, nah, forget it. But you'll get the point. Okay, stuff gets lost in translation.
You said it was Key and Peele?
Key and Peele, Key and Peele, Peele. They did a sketch comedy show on Comedy Central for a few years. They have a lot of great skits, but one of them is regarding text message confusion. And it's hysterical, but it serves as a really good point. If one person just saying like, hey, you want to get together? And then the other person just saying, yeah, whatever. And the guy reading whatever gets pissed, whatever, and it just goes into this whole thing. So that happens. So we got to get back to just the verbal conversations. I wrote down here next, habit we developed during COVID that we need to break: dressing casually. Dressing casually. Put the gym clothes back in the gym clothes drawer. Right? We got to get out of the stretchy pants.
After you wash them.
Yeah, after you wash them. But we got to get out of the stretchy pants and get dressed professionally, whether you're working at home or the office. Some of you are probably never going to go back to the office. You're going to be working from home. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But even when you're working from home, dress professionally. Get out of the sweatpants, get out of the gym clothes, okay? While you're doing your work, put on the outfit. I wrote down here, dressing professionally is a mindset and a call to action. Dressing professionally is a mindset and a call to action. Let me ask you a question. When you are dressed at a really high level, do you tend to perform at a little higher level? 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So it's a mindset as far as dressing professionally. It's not just the, okay, I've got this shirt and tie. I don't wear the jacket very often, but I always have the slacks, the shoes, the shirt, the tie, the whole gambit. And so it's a mindset, because you step up a little bit because I'm feeling a little bit better. Here's the other thing. It's a call to action. Why is it a call to action? Because you're not going to get all dressed up, all clean shaved, or all makeuped up, all done up, and then sit around and do nothing. You're not going to do that. You would do that though if you don't get dressed up. Keep the sweatpants on, the clip-on tie that you can just take off real quick, right? You might not have that call to action, but when you dress up, you're not going to do all that work and then just sit there and do nothing. So dressing professionally is a mindset, and it's also a call to action. And some of us have gotten a little too comfy on Zoom with the not dressing up. Now, I live in a world where I assume that everyone that doesn't have their camera on is dressed professionally. This is what we call fantasy land. But that is the world that I'm choosing to live in. I assume that everyone is fully dressed professionally from the top down and not just top up where people can see them on Zoom. That's the
Naked.
world I choose to live in.
Naked doesn't count.
No. Right? So that's the world I choose to live in. Whether you do that or not, the point is we have to get back to that professionally dressed all the time. I always go back to this Ron Cronin quote when he said, dress like you regularly cash large commission checks. Okay. All the time, right? Always have the attire on. Get back to dressing like a professional all the time.
Hey, Robert.
Yes.
It's hard to create urgency when you're not dressed.
Yeah.
Because you're not ready to go on an appointment.
Yeah. Oh, you're interested in selling? How about tomorrow at 4? I got some time today.
Hey, Robert.
Shoot. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. When you are ready, if you are ready to go and you're prospecting, your mindset is, I can go now. I'm ready. I have all the things ready for me to go. But like you said, if you are not ready and you need to still get all ready, you should, consciously doing the appointment for tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and then you lose the deed there.
Huge point. Huge point. Got to get back to dressing professionally, whether you're in the office or not. Okay. It's a mindset and a call to action. All right. For some of you, I wrote down here, for some of you, you might need to do a quick little Google search to find out where the dry cleaners are. I haven't taken stuff to the dry cleaner in a long time. I don't even know if they're still in business. Unfortunately, the sad part is that a lot of them that aren't in business anymore. So you really might need to find one. If your regular person might not be around. All right, I wrote down it. Oh, here, and I wanted to actually share this video real quick, right? In terms of, we're gonna dressing casually. If you've never seen this, this is a little fun video. It's 2 minutes long on dressing casually.
Yeah, I know a great estate lawyer, Joel Reynolds. I just ran into him the other day.
Reynolds, where is he?
He's in Santa Monica.
He's
Reynolds
good.
and McKay. He's great.
He's good with estates.
He's terrific. Yeah.
Probate and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Got to make a change right away. And I can't wait for my lawyer. Thank you.
Okay.
You're a lawyer, and I love your wife.
What kind of change? What are you talking about?
You'll find out.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Hello, sir. Joel Reynolds?
You're Joel Reynolds.
Yes, I am. Would you like to have a seat, sir?
Yeah, in a minute. I'm a little puzzled. What's this outfit? Is it a Halloween party or what is it?
Oh, no, it's Casual Friday.
Casual Friday, what does that mean?
That means we just dress like we would at home.
But you're not at home.
No, but it is Casual Friday. So.
Yeah, I know. You told me that already. What do you do on Casual Friday?
Well, we just come in and do our work, but we dress casually.
I don't like it.
Well, it's just one day of the week.
I don't give a damn if it's half a day a week. I don't like it. I'm here to change my will. A lot of money is involved. It's very important to me.
Oh, we wouldn't treat you casually.
Then why the hell you dress that
It's
way?
just-
I want you to be on cutting edge, man, whenever you're handling my business.
This is cutting
I
edge.
don't need this crap. You look like a fucking cowboy. You're JR, huh? Joel Reynolds, right?
Look,
You belong in Dallas, not L.A.
I'm sorry, please.
Yeah, you should.
Just understand that we...
You should be sorry because you just lost my account. You go wrangle somebody else's. Thank you very much. Son of a bitch.
If you come back on a Monday or a Tuesday...
That was awesome.
So there you go. We have to get back to dressing professionally.
Can you share
Yeah.
that on the inbox?
Yeah, we have to get back to dressing professionally because we don't want to lose the account like that guy did. So there you go. I just posted the link in the chat box. All right, a little humor there. All right, the next habit I wrote down that we need to break, that we got during COVID that we need to break is lowering the standards on the clients we work with. Lowering the standards on the clients we work with. We, as an industry as a whole, lowered our standards on our clients we worked with during COVID. Here's what I mean. Somebody wants to list their house. Did you really care about their price or motivation? No. Some, I mean, a little bit. I mean, they couldn't be outrageous. But we didn't really pre-qualify. I had somebody tell me the other day, really good agent. Well, actually, when I was at the retreat last week, a really good agent. We were talking about, you know, things changing in the marketplace and stuff like that. And they said, you know, the main thing for me is I got to get back to pre-qualifying. And I was really shocked because they're like been in business a long time, very high end Mike Ferry person. You would think that pre-qualifying would never be their thing. And I got to get back to pre-qualifying. And during COVID, I didn't pre-qualify. They were interested in selling. I went. I figured, all right, you know, I didn't care about the motivation. I didn't care about the price. I went. Figured we could work it out. Some of you that might sound very familiar with. Well, we have to get back to pre-qualifying. We have to get back to caring about price, motivation. What are they doing? What's going on? Who are they interviewing? Get back to that pre-qualify. Now, again, right now, it's still a very heavy seller's market, and it will probably continue to be a seller's market, but it could soften a little bit where price and motivation might come into play. So we have to get back to that. Working with buyers. If you worked with buyers, did you do a full buyer's consultation? Probably not. We had a buyer lead. This is what we did. Well, this property is going to be sold in 2 days. We got to go see property today. We just got the buyer leads. We got to work fast. We got to get them out there instead of spending the extra time to go through a consultation to figure out what's their motivation, what's their driving force, what's going on. Are you qualified? When were you approved? Are you okay with the payment? Are you okay with going above list price? Are you okay with waiving this? Instead of doing a consultation, we just wanted to get them out to see property as soon as possible. We lowered the standards a little bit. We have to get back to the standards that we have with the leads that we're working with the clients that we choose to work with. Okay. So what I wrote down here as homework is go back and write down the standards that you're going to set for the clients that you're going to work with, or what are the standards that you set before you agree to work with a client? Well, I'm not going to work with a seller unless they answer all these questions. I'm only going to work with sellers if they're within this close of a price range. There's got to be a certain motivation. Buyers have to do this. Buyers have to do that. What are your standards that you're going to follow? I wrote down here next, a couple more habits that we need to break. Settling for too many buyer leads. Habit we need to break that we developed during COVID. We were settling for too many buyer leads. Is it easier to find buyer leads or seller leads?
Buyers.
Is it easier to convince a buyer to work with you or a seller?
Buyers.
Buyer, right. But is it harder to close a buyer lead or a seller lead?
Nowadays, the buyer.
Yeah, right? So, but buyer leads were easier. They were by the truckload because interest rates were so low. And it's easier to convince them. And remember at the top, I said we weren't working on our skills intensely enough. So we're not working on our skills intensely enough, and it's easier to get the buyer leads. We just settled for having all these buyer leads. But here's the problem. All the buyer leads give us false hope that we have a lot of closings coming up. But let's be honest here. Is every buyer lead going to close? Probably not even a very good percentage, if we're being honest. So, but it gives us that false hope. We take that side going, gosh, well, I have 8 leads. Okay, well, how many listing leads do you have? Well, I have 1. We have 7 buyer leads and 1 listing lead, but we think we have 8 leads. We have 8 closings. We settled for too much of that. And then there's the time aspect of it. Showing property, finding property, submitting offer after offer after offer after offer. I'm not saying, look, some of you don't work with buyers. I'm not saying you don't have to work with buyers. What I'm saying is don't settle for having too many buyer leads. Create a standard of this is how many buyer leads I can realistically handle at once. I need to go find seller leads. Okay? Because we settled for way too many buyer leads during the pandemic. All right, I wrote down here next. Okay, I got four more habits. Habit we developed during COVID that we need to break: incubating leads. Incubating leads. Remember when Mike said that in like April of 2020? We got to incubate leads, and everyone freaked out. Like, Mike Ferry said you have to incubate leads? What the hell? Is he on drugs? Did somebody take all the herbal medication that he takes in the morning? What is going on here? But it was COVID, so it's like, well, they might buy. Maybe they're not going to buy or sell right now. Maybe they're down the road, so we're incubating them, right? We need to break that habit. Okay, there's no reason for anyone to wait anymore. If they're going to buy, they're going to buy. If they're going to sell, they're going to sell. There's no reason to wait as far as COVID goes anymore. So we need to get out of the incubating lead business.
Okay, so what's incubating leads?
Okay, so incubating leads, this is what we were doing at the very beginning of COVID was, well, I want to see how COVID, maybe 3 to 6 months out, because, we want to see what happens with COVID. So we'd have leads that were like 3 or 6 months away that we were just following up with. We were staying in contact. We were counting them as leads because, well, they just want to see what happens with COVID before they buy or sell. Okay, so they might not have been ready to go now. So we were just keeping them. We have to, we've talked about this before. We have to get leads moving on or moving out faster. So we have to get away from the incubating leads. They're 3 months out, they're 6 months out. They're not waiting for anything anymore. And if they're still waiting, if COVID is over and they're still waiting for something, that means they're waiting for something else like prices, interest rates, whatever. Then they fall into that. My favorite category is waiters will wait forever. Got to get out of the incubating lead business and get back to strong pre-qualifying. I would actually, as I've mentioned a number of times here recently, we have to move on from leads faster. Forget even incubating. We got to go the exact opposite direction because there's less transactions estimated going to happen this year. More real estate agents that have an active real estate license. I don't have time to sit on leads. I got to move on. Yeah. All right, 3 more. Next point I wrote down, habit we need to break. Too much time online. Too much time online. Let's be honest here. During COVID, we were sitting at home. We weren't going out. We weren't doing a lot. So we were doing the scrolling on the phones, scrolling through the social media platforms, the reading the stuff online, right? We got way too much into that. We need to break that habit. Let me ask you this. When you're scrolling online or scrolling through your social media posts, how much useful information do you find? Be honest. Not much. Here's an example. Here's one of the things I like to do. I like to go find articles that might help me be a better coach, trainer, help you be better people, and I can create a class around it. So I was on LinkedIn the other day because I don't have Facebook. I don't have a Facebook account, and I haven't been on Instagram in like 6 or 7 months. So I have LinkedIn. So I was on LinkedIn, which is supposed to be a professional network, all business. So, and I don't know, there's like, I have like, I don't know what the number is, 1,200 connections, which I have no idea what that means. And they're all supposed to be somewhat business people. So I'm scrolling through LinkedIn trying to find an article. Like, okay, what are people posting? I'm sure somebody's posting a really good article that I can read that maybe that can help me or help our agents. I got nothing. I had nothing. I finally just turned it off. I was like, this is stupid. This is dumb. This is useless for me. There might be some stuff on there that's helpful, but find it and then get off. Here's what I put for the online. Get on, do what you need to do, get what you need, and get the hell off. Get on, do what you need to do, get what you need, and get the hell off. We've got to break that habit. Remember the video we watched last Friday with Lily Singh? She said she deleted all of her apps, social media apps for 6 months. Now, this is someone whose life depends on social media. She's a YouTuber and all this other thing, but even she had to I got to take a break. We've got to get back away from the online stuff, okay? Plus, let me ask you this. When you're scrolling online, is there more negativity or positivity?
Negative.
Okay, does that help your day?
No.
Let me, here's the thing. I used to, one of the things I used to always do in the mornings years ago is I would go to Yahoo, because Yahoo has this whole page of like what's going on in the world, like all these different stories. Man, I tried to do that the other day. I got about a quarter of the way down the page and I was so depressed. I was like, man, there used to be like information that I could use like to help me be in the know of what's going on, and now it's just miserable. So
Hey, Robert,
yeah.
when you mean informational, I mean, do you consider as YouTube, wouldn't that be informational?
So here's what I wrote down. Everything's pretty useful if it's a how-to.
Oh, okay.
How to do this, how to do that, DIYs, how to do this. Those are great. Well, most people don't do that. What they do is they log into their Instagram account, their Facebook account, and they just scroll. And when you're scrolling, you don't get much useful information. You either get what people are having for lunch, all the lies they're telling you about their successes, lies, or I'm dealing with mental health today. Just today. I'll be fine tomorrow if I close a deal. Then I somehow don't have mental health problems anymore. It's too much. When you're doing how-tos, those are great. Or if you find something like an article, that's why I try to find articles and stuff to learn about different things on sales, mindset, skills, whatever the case may be. But man, it's hard to find that stuff amongst all the shit that's on there. Sorry, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last two things. Habits we got during COVID, we need a break. I wrote down here, not exercising and not eating healthy. I don't want anyone to raise their hand or admit to this. You know who you are. Some of you put on a little too much weight during COVID. Okay. It is what it is. Some people put on weight because they got jacked. It's like, man, you put on weight, like muscle, good for you. Some of you put on weight, not so much muscle. Okay. And it's because we weren't going out as much. The gyms closed and we didn't develop a home workout routine. Or we're ordering DoorDash every day. So we need to break that habit and get back to the routine of, if you're not going back to the gym, which is perfectly fine. I didn't go back to the gym. As soon as COVID hit, even before the lockdown, actually, I'd set up a home gym at my house and I'm good. I don't need to go back. But so you can either do that, or if you're going back to gym, great. But if you're not going back to gym, you need to set up some routine to exercise. Get a treadmill, get a Peloton, go for a walk every day, go hiking, do something, go for a run outside. It's free. And you live in California, most of you. So you don't have weather problems. Okay. Get back to making your lunches instead of ordering lunches. Get back to making dinner instead of ordering dinner in all the time. Okay. You've got to get back to that routine of eating healthy, exercising. There is a correlation between your health and your success in sales. Okay. You don't have to believe that, but there is. You've got to get back to that. The last thing I wrote down here, the habit that we developed during COVID that we need to break is we are not laughing enough. We're not laughing enough. Because we are not spending as much time with people, we are left to online consumption and nonverbal communication. Most of that is either dry, negative, or depressing. And so we're not laughing as much, which means we're not smiling as much, which means we're having less fun, which means we're also getting less enjoyment out of life. You need to break that habit and start laughing more, whether that be getting back out to hang out with people that make you laugh, whether that be going to YouTube, as Tess mentioned earlier, going to YouTube and watching some videos, whether that be reading something. But when you're succumb to online consumption and nonverbal communication, there's not as much laughter. Okay. Anyone ever heard laughter's the best medicine?
I think it's someone else's.
You gotta get back to laughing more enjoyment out of life. And during COVID, man,
Is it gas?
it was really hard. So we have to break that habit and get back to laughing more. Whatever it takes, however you have to do it, get back to laughing more, having a little more fun out of everything. Okay. Sometimes the easiest thing to do if you need a laugh is you can just laugh at yourself. That might be a Hertel thing.
Okay, that's a mental issue now.
That might be a Hertel thing. You know, you need a good laugh? Yeah, just think of something you did today. Yeah, that's pretty funny. How'd that call go? Didn't go very well, idiot. Fun times. Questions on anything we went over today? There you go. All right, so that's a list of habits we developed during COVID that we need to break as fast as we can. Some of those you might not apply to you. The ones that do, get out of it. Get out of it. You know, it's already the 20th week of the year. Jesse was commenting on that when he was doing the open mic today. We're already on week 20. Gotta break the cycles. We gotta break the habits. All right. All right. That's all I got. Cindy has a class this afternoon.